3, 2, 1, go. Alright, what's up guys? I want to do a quick crash course in Nomad Sculpt for those of you that are new but just want to jump right in and try and do some characters. So this is what you'll pretty much get. The background might be a different color, but you can just change that here if you wanted to. You can change it to whatever you want. But when I sculpt, the first thing that I want to do is go to this little camera icon. Make sure you're in orthographic. I always sculpt in orthographic. And then you want to go to this little sun thing and you'll be in lit PBR. That's the white. Just go to matte cap. And then if it's not this, then just tap here and go to PXG clay. It's just easier to see. So I'm going to be sculpting on this just because it's easier to see. All right, so you have your sphere here, but let's first just add a shape, a new shape. So you want to go to the scene here, and here we have the sphere. So let's add a box. So all of these are primitives. So they're just like basic shapes. Once you add them, you can't use all the tools yet. You see there's not that many tools. You have to validate. So right now there's some things you can do to the box, but you can't really use it to its full potential until it's like part of the project. And to do that, you have to validate. So let's validate our box. And now you see there's a bunch of other tools here. Okay, so we have our box. Let's take this little green circle, this little green sphere, and we're just going to shrink it up like that. And this is very important. See how it says front? So when you're moving around in space, sometimes it's hard to know which way is the front. So just look at this. You can tap front here and it'll go back to the front, and you should see, whoops. As you can see, it's a 2-finger tap to undo. So just so you know. So here's the front, and the line, this is the horizon line. It should be straight when you're looking at it. Okay, so let's make this square. See, we can move this up and down. So that's this is going to be our floor. So let's look at the front view. We'll use this green arrow to bring it down. I'm going to bring it down right to that white line, so it's lined up. And also, this little thingy is the gizmo. This is the gizmo right here. So this just controls everything. You can move it up and down, left and right. There's an orange ring, which is the size. And then there's these little spheres and stuff, which you can like shrink it and stretch it and all that stuff. So that's the gizmo. Okay, so back to front. Let's make this a little bit bigger with that orange ring, and then let's shrink it again until it's right under that white line. So something like this. So let's take the sphere now and let's move it up. Okay, and we'll tap front again. So let's make this the body. So go to the scene. You see the sphere here. Tap on the 3 dots. Name, body. Box, 3 dots. Name, floor. Okay, so now we have our floor. I'm going to do a quick save because I don't have autosave on. So this will be crash course. Okay. So now we have our body. So let's give our little character some legs. So we'll go to the scene, add, and let's use some more spheres. So now we have this yellow sphere. The yellow means it's a primitive. Remember, we haven't validated it yet, so it's yellow. So let's tap on the gizmo. See, it's kind of grayed out here. So tap on the gizmo, and now we can move this. So this is going to be the legs. So obviously it's only one sphere, but we want to mirror it because this leg is going to be the same on this side. So we'll tap mirror. Now everything is mirrored. So now this leg is in a mirror. If you look at the scene, we have a mirror right here. And this is our sphere inside the mirror. If you bring this out, see, it goes away. But you take the sphere and drag it underneath the mirror, then it's mirrored. So anything you do to the side will happen on this side. So let's just so we don't get confused, let's change this to legs. And also let's change this to legs too. So we'll tap on that, tap the 3 dots, legs. Okay, so let's tap on the legs. That way we can adjust them. Okay, so let's shrink them, and let's stretch them maybe. And let's use this, see this blue line? Let's use that, and we can sort of tilt it. So let's sort of tilt it a little bit. So maybe something like this is good. But if we look on the side, they're a little thin, so I'm going to use this blue sphere to kind of stretch them this way too. Okay, I think that's okay. Okay, so let's validate. I kind of like the shape, so we'll validate them. And now we have these other tools that we can use. And you can play around with these. For now, we will use the move tool. So if you tap on move, and the intensity, usually I keep mine up to like 100, and this is the radius. Right now I have it like on 190 or so. And with the move tool, you can just sort of move around, you know, different things like that. Pretty self-explanatory, very useful tool. You can move things. If you want to move the body, you can tap on the body, and you can, maybe you want to bring this up a little bit or bring his little belly out. Now remember, symmetry. I have symmetry on right now. See this red line? So because I have symmetry on, anything I do here happens here. So that's just symmetry. That's different than a mirror. Our legs are in a mirror. This is our body, but symmetry is very useful. Let's say we want to make a teardrop shape. We just make sure we have symmetry on, and then you can kind of make your teardrop shape like this. You can turn it to the side, and then you also want to make sure that, you know, the front and the back also looks decent. So let's give him a little belly, and we'll just make a little teardrop shape like that. And the move tool I use all the time, so it's very, very useful. So now we have the body, we have the legs, and I'm pretty happy with the legs. So let's tap on the scene. We'll go to the legs, and now we can validate them. So we can make them just one shape. Right now it's a shape in a mirror, but we want to make it one shape. So just hit validate, join children. The children is, you know, it's in a mirror, so there's 2 of them now. So those are the children, so we're going to join them. Yes. So now we just have legs. They're all one piece. None of the mirror business anymore. It's just one piece. Well, let's use trim, because right now this floor is hiding the bottom part of the legs. We don't want that. So let's tap on the legs. Let's turn to the left. Although you don't have to, you can keep it straight. I don't know why I turned it to the left. Trim. And for the trim tool, I usually use rectangle, but you have lasso, so if you wanted to trim them like kind of like that or something. But I use rectangle. And then I just draw a rectangle below. And I want it to be right under. I don't want it to be even with the leg. I want it to be a little bit underneath. And then I'll just trim it. And now you'll see that the legs are trimmed. And we'll smooth that out later. Okay, so now our character is looking good. Let's add a big old head on him. So we'll go to the scene, add, and let's add let's do a sphere. So tap our gizmo, we'll bring the sphere up. And let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's shrink it with this green sphere, maybe. I think I tend to make a lot of my characters this kind of shape. So we'll do something like that. And I think that's pretty good. We can validate it. And then if you want to shape it, just use the move tool. You can use move, and you can kind of shape it if you want. Oh, see, notice I don't have symmetry on. So then it gets weird. Make sure you have symmetry on, and then you can sort of just, you know, change the shape of it if you want. So yeah, I'll do something like this. Another really interesting tool is flatten. So let's find the flatten tool. And with the flatten, I use symmetry. And let's say I just want to flatten the front face. Another very, very useful tool. So we can just flatten this like so. You can flatten as much as or as little as you want, but I want to give him a flat face in the front. So now that that's now that that's flat, see how it's kind of lumpy? You just take the smooth tool and then you can just smooth it. And then it's nice and smooth and pretty. So let's give him some arms. So we'll go scene. Oh, and we forgot to name this. So let's name this head. And I like to put let's put it on top. So let's do add sphere. And we'll use our gizmo and let's bring it up. We can shrink it with this orange. We can't see it, but let's move it over. And obviously we want the same arm on both sides, so we'll tap mirror. Let's move it down a little bit, like so. Maybe, oops, maybe a little bit smaller. So we'll do something like that. So now let's validate so we can use the other tools. And let's take move. Again, now this is a mirror, so let's go ahead and name these. Arms. Let's name the mirror as well. Arms. Oh, and let's go to arms so we can adjust. So now with the move tool, let's just kind of make some arm shapes. So I'm going to pull this down and pull the shoulder up a little bit. I'm going to push it. Maybe I'll pull out the back a little bit. And even though the arm is selected, so even though I might touch here and move, it's still going to move for the arms. So just, note that sometimes. Okay, I think this looks pretty good. Let's move the shoulders more into the body. And you can kind of shape the arms as much or as little as you want. I think this looks pretty good. I want them to have smaller shoulders. So yeah, something like that is good. You can take smooth also, like if I want to make the arms a little bit smaller. Sometimes you can use smooth and it'll slowly kind of eat away at the clay. So those are, kind of useful things. Once you get kind of used to the tools, you can use them very efficiently. So that looks pretty good. So let's make a little palm area. So we use flatten. And we want to adjust here, but this is in the way. So let's tap on the floor, tap scene, and let's just get rid of the floor. See, now it's invisible. So now let's tap the arm again, and let's just flatten underneath here. Maybe we'll make this bigger. So let's just flatten this. And I usually flatten it because it's like a palm for a little character. So once it's nice and flat, again, I just use smooth and I just smooth it out to make it nice and pretty. So let's give him a thumb and maybe 2 fingers. So we can use inflate. So now we'll make the thumb. So we're going to make the thumb right here. So we kind of want it like pointed down a little bit. So I'm going to start underneath, but I'm just going to do a circular pattern like that. And then I'll just repeat. And it sort of just builds up. It makes a nice little round little nub that's perfect for a little character's thumb. And I want to do the same thing for the other fingers, but I want them to be sort of pointing down, so I'm not going to do them here, although I could. Maybe I'll do one slightly up. So I'll just repeat this process. Give them little fingers, or maybe a little bit longer than that. Like so. And maybe the other ones I'll sort of put more underneath. There you go. And maybe I'll give him another one too. So we'll do something like that. So now he has his little fingers. The thumb's a little big. So I'm going to take smooth and I'm just going to smooth it down before I remesh. Because right now they're very malleable now. But if we want to tighten them up, what you do is do a voxel remesh. So we'll go here, voxel, and voxel remesh will just kind of recalculate everything, and it'll make the structure a little bit smaller. There's another way to do it too, but I don't want to confuse you. You can also go here there's voxel and then there's multi-res. So there's these two. In multi-res you can do subdivide, and that'll subdivide all of the vertices in the arm. But it'll just make it more dense. So if we do subdivide, see how it gets a lot nicer, because it just like multiplies everything in the arms. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Thumbs are a little questionable, but that's okay. If I were really crazy about it, what I could do is just smooth them all the way down, and then do it again. We'll do inflate, and then try to make him a proper thumb. There you go, that's a better thumb. So let's go ahead and go here, and let's do multi-res and subdivide. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so let's give him some little ears. So here are our arms. We're happy with the arms, so let's validate them. Join children. So we have arms. We can bring the floor back. So let's just add some little details, and then we'll be done. So we'll do add sphere gizmo. We'll bring it up. Move it back a little bit and move it over, and let's mirror it. Maybe we'll make them small. Let's stretch them with the green sphere. And see these rings? Let's use the red rings to kind of move them back. Like that. You can take the green and you can kind of turn them. So you can kind of make them any... you can kind of sort of place them wherever you want, really. But I kind of like something like that. Although his head is going to be a little... So I'm going to move his head up because I think he would be falling backwards. So I'm going to take both of these and the head and just move them forward a bit. There you go. Okay, that looks good. Let's go ahead and validate these, and we'll just call these ears for now. Why not? So let's add another sphere. And let's use our gizmo. Sometimes I forget that I can't click here. I have to click this. So let's move it up. We'll shrink it really small. I'll move it up so you can see what I'm doing. So we'll shrink it really small. And let's flatten it a little bit. And let's bring it down to the floor. Let's tap mirror. And we'll separate them. And then we'll move it back to the feet. So now we have sort of like little toes. So you can put them down lower, or you can bring them up higher. You can stretch them so they come out more. You can make them more narrow, things like that. So you're pretty, you can pretty much do whatever you want. You can move them around so it looks like his toes are out. That looks cute. So you have lots of freedom there with his little feet. So maybe I'll just do something like that. So let's validate, and remember we have to do the same thing because right now the bottom is hidden. So we have to do the same thing. So I'm gonna tap left, trim, rectangle, and I'll make the rectangle, and we'll just trim that sphere. Whoop. Make sure you touch the part you want to work on. There we go. So now they're trimmed. There we go. Okay, so now let's just give him some quick eyes. So these are the feet. So let's validate. Yes. And just rename it so we don't get confused. Feet. So now let's add another sphere. Gizmo. We'll bring it up. Move it out and we can shrink it. We can hit our mirror. Let's shrink them a little more. Maybe we want the eyes to be separated some more. So you can kind of put them wherever you want. You don't have to really, it doesn't have to be just like mine. Ooh, I kind of like that. Kind of like that there. I think that's pretty good. So we can validate this. So let's go to our scene and make sure that we know that these are eyes. So I don't know if I want to validate this yet, because later on I might do pupils and stuff. Not in here, but I'm going to leave it as a mirror. But I'm still going to rename it eyes. Mirror, eyes. Okay. So let's use the mask tool, and this is something that's really fun to do and very useful. So we're using the mask tool, and essentially let's tap on the head. Symmetry's on. So now you can sort of mask. But see how it's not really that clear. So let's use our multi-res again. So let's go here, and let's multi-res, and let's subdivide once. Okay, it's a little better. So let's try this. Let's voxel remesh. So instead of multi-res, let's voxel remesh. Let's bump it up to 200. I'm going to do a quick save. So we bump it up to 200, and then we just hit remesh. That's okay. There we go. Now it's nice and clear. Okay, so let's use the mask, and let's just make a little mouth here. Okay, simple little mouth. So now we go to the mask tools, invert. So now everything else is masked except for the mouth. Gizmo. Remember, we're only on the head. So when we push back, it's only going to push back this mouth part. Okay, so now we want to get rid of the mask. So we're going to want to go to mask, mask tools, and clear. Okay, we might need to voxel remesh this again. Let's see. Let's use smooth, and let's see how soft the clay is. It's pretty soft, but I think that's okay. If you don't want it to be like, if you want it to be more or less malleable, then just do another voxel remesh. And it should be a little, yeah. So then it's not so soft, but it's still soft enough to smooth. Okay, that looks good. Now you can see part of our eyes. So we don't really want that. So we can just take clay, sub, and see this little eyes in here? Let's just tap it, and let's just use clay and sub and just get rid of that. Okay, now it's gone on both sides. Okay, we're doing well. So let's add another sphere. But let's take it out of this eye mirror. So Gizmo, up. I'm going to bring it out. And then we use the orange ring to shrink it. And let's make it a little bit thinner like this. Maybe a little bit squatter. So let's move it up and back. And you can stretch it if you want to just do like teeth like that. Or you can mirror it. And you have, you know, two little teeth. Like so. Okay, so let's just validate this. I like those teeth. So we'll just validate them. Rename. Teeth. Okay, and last but not least, let's add another sphere. Let's tap Gizmo. Then we'll bring it up, flatten it, make it really small. Maybe even a little smaller. Let's just move it back in there. Now he has a little tongue. Okay, nice. And there's also, play around with all these other tools. There's things you can do like inflate. If you tap on the head, you might want to inflate around the eyes. It's kind of nice. So there's lots of things you can do for, with the tools. Okay, so now let's switch to, so let's go to this little sun here. We're on MatCap. Let's switch to Lit PBR. And here's your colors. So first, let's go ahead and, what is this sphere? Oh, this is the tongue. Let's validate the tongue real quick. We'll tap this and name it tongue, just so we know what everything is. I'll do a quick save. Okay, so yeah, here we are. So he's all white. So I'm going to take everything, and I don't really like this like shiny white, so you can go to white, but you can adjust the roughness. So see how it has all, it's very glossy, like glass, but I like to adjust the roughness so it's not so glossy. But maybe for something like the eyes, I might keep that. So I'll go back to this paint, and I might bring the roughness down for the eyes. Maybe the teeth too. Maybe the teeth, maybe not as glossy, but maybe glossy. Okay, so now if you want to color him, let's color him. So let's take everything except for the floor. And actually, except for the eyes, let's uncheck those. And except for the teeth and the tongue, everything else is good. So everything else is part of his body. So now you can go to color, and you can color it any color that you want. Maybe I'll do like an orangey kind of color. Bring the roughness up a bit. So we'll do something like this. And now for the eyes, we'll make the eyes like, let's make sure we bring the roughness down so we can keep that gloss. Well, we can make them white actually, or black. So we'll do something like that. Maybe we'll make the tongue a little pink color. Add a little roughness to it so it's not so glossy. Teeth can be white. And I don't know, I might change the eyes. Let's change the eyes to white. Sometimes yellow is a good color for eyes too. We'll change them to white for now, and we'll keep them glossy, so we'll turn the roughness down. So let's do paint all. And since you're here, let's do something real. Let's do something extra. So we have the eyes, right? So let's clone the eyes. I like to name this P1, so let's rename it P1. Okay, so I'm actually going to take it, let's drag it out of that mirror, and then hit add, and we're going to give it its own mirror. So now we have P1. And let's color this black, and we'll keep it shiny, so no roughness. So we'll do paint all. So now let's use our gizmo. See, it's being crazy because they're occupying the same space. So let's pull it out a little bit. And let's shrink it. See, now you can slightly move it. You might have to shrink it some more. Whoop. Let's bring it all the way out so we can see how big it is. Let's shrink it, and now let's move it back in. There we go. So you can make it bigger or smaller, however big or small you want. Maybe we want like little eyes. Something like that. Those eyes look crazy. I kind of like those. So yeah, I think that looks cute. But there's a lot you can do. You can use the drag tool. Let's say you want to just move this down a little bit to give him more of a smile. You can just kind of move this down. Maybe drag that up a little bit. You can move the teeth. Oh, if you ever use Gizmo and the Gizmo is somewhere weird, go to pivot, center, pivot. So let's move this out. There we go. Okay, nice. So now we have like a little character. And last but not least, if you want to, let's say you want to merge him all together, because right now he's all separate. You can also do that. Let's say you wanted to merge the head and the ears. Get rid of that. And the body, the legs, and the arms. Ooh, and the feeties. So let's say you want to merge all of this stuff. You can go here. You can do a voxel remesh. And I'll do it at like 250. So you just do a voxel remesh. And then everything, and now it's merged. So now you can take smooth, and you can make sure you have symmetry on, and then you can smooth everything, and it looks nice in like one piece. Just be careful when you're smoothing like certain parts that you might want to keep some of that definition from the lines. Okay. All right, so now we have our character. Let's tap front. Let's keep this camera view. So we'll tap the camera, add view, and then rename it. I just like to do 1. So now if you're doing this and you want to go back to that view, you can just hit 1. And let's go here. Yeah, so let's turn off the environment. Whatever environment you're using, let's turn it off by just checking that. Add a light. Now you have 1 light. Let's make this our key light. So let's rename it key. And let's raise the intensity maybe to around 2 or so. Okay, that looks good. Tap these little 3 dots. And I like soft shadows, so I always check that because I prefer soft shadows. Okay, so now let's go back to our lights. So this is our key. This is the duplicate. So let's duplicate it and rename it fill. Okay. So now it's the fill. So let's hit our gizmo so we can adjust the fill light. So I'm going to move this over. It actually doesn't matter where this goes. And let me turn on the icons. Turn on light icons so you can see. I have one here. This is the key light. It doesn't matter where these goes because sun, it just doesn't matter where you put them. The only thing that matters is how you do this, how you rotate it. Wherever this little white arrow is pointing, that's where the light is. So let's rotate it so it's towards him. Well, let's turn the intensity down because this is just to fill. So it's not supposed to be really light. It's just supposed to lighten up the shadow part. All right, so that looks good. So now let's add another light, but let's make this a spot. So this is a spotlight. So let's change the name of this to edge. Okay, so now let's move this back behind him. I'll do the top view so you can see. And a little bit off to the side, I'm going to rotate it so it's pointing to him. I'm going to rotate it up. Oh, make sure you touch the light again. Okay, so I'm going to use this orange node to make it a little bit wider, and then I'm going to up the intensity. So I put it there. So now when we go back to the front, let's move the light over just a bit so we can see it right on the edge. So that's what we wanted, and you can obviously adjust it more or less as you please. I'm going to make this soft as well. So now let's go back to our lights. Let's just clone this one, and we'll just name it TD. Usually this is my top-down light, but I don't know what we'll use it for. Let's move it over here, and let's move it. Let's point it to him on this side as well. So we'll make it a little bit brighter over here. Let's turn the intensity down. That's way too high. And let's change the color. Maybe we'll change it to a bluish. So we'll do something like that. Maybe we'll make it a little more blue. So we'll do something like that. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. So now let's turn on our environment again. It's going to be really bright. So just scroll down and then just turn the exposure down. Like so. This is my own custom exposure, so if you want to change them to the ones that they have here, that's how you do it. Just tap on it and you can change. Things like this, see this round light? That's because of the environment. That's because of how I made this shape. Okay, so let's go here to this little shutter. We'll do post-process. And now you can sort of adjust these and play around with these. Yours might be at none. I think I just do standard is the normal one. Yeah, I think standard is the more of the original one. So you do standard and then you pretty much have your lighting and everything. This is pretty much how it's set up and how it's going to look. But you can just go and play around with all this stuff. There's lots of fun things you can sort of play around with. You can adjust the shadows and things like that. You can do depth of field. You just tap on the part that you want to be clear or you want to be in focus. And then of course you can change how far back it is and how much is in focus and things like that. Bloom is like glare. So that's like how light hits things. Then you can adjust all these. Tone mapping. I don't know why that's on. I usually leave it off. Sharpness. Interesting. But yeah, you can play around with all of that. But I think he looks pretty good. I'm very happy with him. Hopefully you learned a lot. And make sure you tag me if you post these anywhere. Tag me. I want to see what colors you make them, what different eyes, different arms, different things that you can do. But it's that simple to make a character. I think I did this in like little less than 40 minutes. It would have been faster if I wasn't talking so much, but I just wanted to give you guys a quick crash course in Nomad Sculpt. So of course, if you want to send it to another application, you can just, let me go ahead and, well, let me save as. Okay, because I put everything together like I've voxel remeshed it, so I just want to do save as. Save as saves it as a new file, so if I wanted to open the previous one, I can. But here's all your settings for saving and exporting. These are all like 3D files. Like if I was going to send to Blender, I would send as a GLTF. And these are your render settings. Render is just saving the image. Transparent background, which means it will have no background, no blue. Render ratio, I usually put that up. I usually check here and make sure that this is all the way up. And these are just your sizes that you can share. So I'm going to do 4K because this is going to go at the end of this video. And it's nice, you can actually see the crop. So that means I have to make this a little bit smaller. Okay, let's see. 4K, perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to export this PNG. So just make sure that you go through and play with all the tools. There's lots of them. The great thing about Nomad Sculpt is you can learn a lot by just playing around. Also, I have a million tutorials. Some of them now, like there's been an update, but things aren't that different. And of course, just write a comment underneath and I'll try and help you figure it out, or someone else that sees it will help you figure it out. Nomad Sculpt has a great community. There's also some things on Discord as well. If you like this tutorial, I'm probably going to do a more in-depth tutorial on both Udemy and Skillshare. And obviously those are my courses for those platforms, but I go way more in depth and spend a lot more time. I'll probably go through a lot of the tools and things like that and just do something a little bit more in depth. But hopefully this was useful and hopefully you learned a lot from this crash course. And yeah, so this is almost done. I'm going to post up the final render and keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all